Coming up, more training camp discussions as it looms a few weeks away. We want to know, are these narratives capable of uplifting key New York Football Giants players? Someone like Matt Brieda's in the mix? Let's get into it right after the theme music. Fact or fiction, from OTA hype to training camp proof, that is what we are here to discuss, and we dive in on that conversation with a couple of names that may surprise you. But right off the bat, I think it's worth saying there's a guy going around town throwing his weight, maybe wearing a red jersey. Andrew Thomas is a healthy man, Andy. Do we think that we are ready to say that training camp will be the final nail in the celebratory coffin of Andrew Thomas was a quality pick? He had a little bit of a tumultuous start to his career, but he's figured it out. And this is going to be the cementing of bookend tackles with rookie Evan Neal. Lock it up, done deal, no concerns.
Well, in the words of John Mara, even though he was talking about Daniel Jones,
Sure.
we've done everything possible to screw this kid up, right? Like if you think about Andrew Thomas coming out, he gets drafted high. They put Will Hernandez next to him, who everyone knows, any listener knows that I feel that he was not a starting level guard, and any left tackle or center that was next to him was actually graded significantly better when Will Hernandez was not there. Then we moved on to Shane Lemieux next to Andrew Thomas, who had the worst pass blocking grade in all of the NFL at 16.9. We really haven't done Andrew Thomas very many favors. Then
Don't forget about the center position, by the way, right? Like,
right.
Think about the rotation and shuffle there before we got to what we thought could have been a really nice stopgap here with Nick Gates and then the injury. But even prior to that, revolving door at the center position, continuity. But continue.
Yes, agreed. And we finally have decided to invest in the offensive line. New regime has decided to draft a first-round draft pick to bookend in Evan Neal, as you mentioned. They go out and they get Glowinski from the Colts, considered a top 5 offensive line in Indianapolis. He looks like he's stabilizing that right guard position. They go and get Feliciano. They now have Shane Lemieux coming back off an injury. They have some competition with the Zudu. The team itself has not really helped out Andrew Thomas, and he has had ankle injuries. But the fact that everyone was so porous around him made it really difficult to understand what you're getting from Andrew Thomas. And for me, it's going to take a little bit of time. I don't think training camp or preseason is going to show me anything on Andrew Thomas, to be quite frank, because you and I both picked him as the offensive tackle we wanted out of his draft. He has not done anything to dissuade me from thinking that he will be the best in that draft. Tristan Wirfs has been great. I think Andrew Thomas showed last year that he can be a dominant left tackle. So for me, it's just get him healthy. Don't do anything crazy. And then let's make sure that he's just ready to go for week 1.
Yeah, and I mean, listen, remember the rookie season when he gave up 57 pressures, 14 more than anyone in the NFL, and 10 sacks, which was a league high. He turns that around in his second year, to your point. Just 2 sacks allowed and only 18 pressures. There's been volatility and inconsistency around him. And really, the reason why I framed it as Andrew Thomas is a healthy man, I think from a player standpoint, he was the unsexy pick, right? He's the guy that's just going to come in and ho-hum. Maybe unlike even Evan Neal, where you see this guy walk on the field, you go, well, watch out, friends, right? We're doing something here. I think from a player standpoint, the boxes are checked. Now it is about, though, 2 seasons to, look back to where they said coming out of his rookie campaign too, was dealing with some things, got it taken care of, then dealt with it again in his second year too. Like, health is a concern here, I think, for Andrew Thomas, especially when we come out and say, he's got that red jersey on this offseason. Training camp's going to roll here, and you want to get, whether it's familiarity with Shane Lemieux and a little bit of continuity, whether it's Joshua Zudu who bubbles up. But you know how you have those veterans you mentioned on the line too. And while Evan Neal has 3 players between him and Andrew Thomas, the cohesiveness that you want to have on that offensive line, and I think first and foremost at Brian Daboll and Mike Kafka's mind here, are things they want to accomplish this offseason. So and I do think I want him to be the leader too, but you can only be that leader if you're on the field for consistency and with those reps. And I do wonder if there is a little bit of a changing of the guard or changing of the tackle in terms of who's going to be the leader ultimately of this offensive line, while he may be the left tackle, Evan Neal is right there ready to kind of say, hey, I'm cementing myself here. And that doesn't matter to where the team can go, but Andrew Thomas needs to be there and be available. And that's my only concern right now with him.
Well, the funny thing is, Evan Neal and Andrew Thomas both are considered a little bit mild mannered.
Yeah,
They're a little bit more quiet. They're a little bit more reserved. They let their play speak for themselves. It's actually funny. I would say that the person that is the biggest question mark on the offensive line, John Feliciano, might be the loudest one in the room out of everybody. Just
that always a
with all the
great sign.
different yeah different comments that he's making. But listen, I think that Andrew Thomas is going to once again prove that he is one of the best left tackles in the league.
Yep.
There's been a couple of different lists that have come out that are still doubting the success of Andrew Thomas by not having him higher up on those lists. But to me, Andrew Thomas is when healthy, a top 10 left tackle in the NFL.
And that's what we'll see. One tumultuous season, one very sound season. It's okay to say you're in this prove it year now in year number 3. And I think we'll see that and we'll hear a lot of positive things coming out of this training camp. Fact or fiction, OTA hype, or training camp proof. Cordale Flott, just a depth piece. When we talk about Cordale Flott and where he was drafted in this secondary and what needs to happen, where are the expectations for some of these young players, we know that there's buzz around. Will the Giants go out and get a veteran cornerback to add into this room? Do you think that Cordale Flott is the bar just, hey, build up to being a contributor in training camp, not claim a starting role at the slot corner position?
That's a tough one because we talk
I
about
ask hard questions, Andy.
I know, Adam, and it's not easy for me to answer because you put me on the spot. And the
Sure.
thing is, it's about the competition that is around him. When you talk about the slot position right now, are we talking about Darnay Holmes as
Right.
as his biggest competition? Are we saying Julian Love might start playing there in a little bit of a pinch? Remember, Darnay Holmes in the 2020 draft was a 4th-round pick. Cordale Flott is a 3rd-round pick from the current coaching staff and GM and new regime. He
Mm-hmm.
is going to be afforded every single opportunity to win that role. I have no problem in OTAs and minicamp making sure that like he kind of goes through the progression. You don't need to hand him the job in minicamp. That's not where the job is won. You don't need to give him that false sense of confidence. But if in training camp he starts to progress and then you get him out there in preseason games and he starts to shine, the Giants drafted him with every expectation that he will be a starting nickel cornerback, slot cornerback in this league, and it'll be very quick, in my opinion. And I don't think that someone like Darnay Holmes necessarily is a big enough roadblock to him starting early on in week 1.
Wow, I'm not for or against it. I'm surprised that you're showing that much confidence in Cordale Flott. I think you're right when you talk about a guy like Darnay Holmes. He can still have a role. We kind of forget he has a little bit more size, so there's some positional versatility potentially for him. But 4th-round pick, yes, you are in front of Cordale Flott. But if Flott can play anywhere close to him in training camp, then Cordale Flott is miles ahead of him on the depth chart, right? Because of where he was drafted. To your point, so the other thing that I think too, and this is a kind of a quick hit on this one because there's going to be a lot of rotations. I think when we talk about Wink Martindale in the secondary and who's asked to do what, does that play a role in where the expectations go? Not just for Cordale Flott, but the secondary as a whole, where you say, listen, when you're on the field, do your job well, right? So often in the last couple of years, you could always look at and say, well, when player X stepped out there, we all knew this was going to be a pass play going his direction. I think to some extent for Flott and maybe the secondary at large, if you can just say, did my job on that rep, that is doing your job for the Giants.
Well, I think on the defense in the secondary, there's literally only 2 players that have a clearly defined role, and that is Adoree Jackson and Xavier McKinney. They're the
Right.
only 2 players where it's like, Adoree, you're going to play press man coverage. You are our number 1 cornerback. You're going to take their best player, and we're hopefully going to take him away. And Xavier McKinney, it doesn't matter how many safeties or how many defensive backs we have. You are in that safety position. You are watching everything from afar. You are the leader all the way in the back. Everyone else is almost positionless right now under Wink
Yeah.
Martindale. Until I see it in a preseason game, I'm not going to fully comprehend how amorphous this defense is going to be, right?
Right.
Like we talk about the position versatilities people. We talked about Julian Love playing linebacker for a little bit. Like there's so much position versatility. These guys are going to get on the field, and the fact that Cordale Flott has the athleticism, has the size to be able to match
Mhm.
up against some of these people, I think will get him on the field earlier than, say, if he was 2 or 3 inches shorter. Maybe he's not even drafted in that position. The NFL is all about having long arms, long wingspan. That's why, I'm a big fan of someone like Rodarius Williams. But Cordale Flott gives himself an opportunity to get on the field if he can, in a pinch, play outside, in a pinch, play slot, or drop back, or get pressure on the quarterback. So for me, I don't think that he's just a depth piece, Adam. They went up and got it and, made sure to get him in the third round. I think he's going to be a big contributor early on, especially after James Bradbury's no longer with the team.
So much more confidence in Cordell Flott than Wan'Dale Robinson. This I will never understand from Andrew Makowitz, but I like it. We all have to pick our players. So between the two of us, we are very confident in the draft selections for the New York Football Giants. Let's close that. I'm going to call it a fun note, but I think it's actually a significant one. And that is factor fiction, OTA hype, or training camp proof, which, by the way, there wasn't any OTA hype around this particular player. But Matt Brieda ready for a vet role. We talked about, obviously, we know Saquon Barkley coming back. We know that they also drafted young talent. We know that they have a holdover also from the previous regime. But for me, and I said this at the time that they signed him on, I just look at Matt Brieda and you go inside the stats and you say, wouldn't you know it? He's a career 4.9 yards per carry running back. He's capable of catching things out of the backfield. He's capable of understanding the system and being a consistent presence alongside Daniel Jones from a pass blocking perspective. I'm not overhyping him, but he checks all the boxes for the level of expectations you have for him. Do you think that he's going to be entrenched with a role as a veteran on this team, or are there names that can surge past him here on the depth chart?
Matt Breida, fun fact, nickname was Breida the Cheetah. And then
Yeah.
Tyreek Hill heard about it and he was like, nope, there's only one cheetah in the NFL and it's me. But
Can't give yourself a nickname. I don't care how fast Tyreek Hill may
ooh,
be. That's inappropriate. I mean, you
it
may
is.
be the cheetah, but nevertheless.
Well, it depends if Tyreek Hill gave himself the nickname or not. That is
Okay.
that is neither here nor there. But to your point, Matt Breida, 4.9 yards. He had a couple of good games in Buffalo. I think he lost a fumble or didn't secure a fumble
Mhm.
that he should have in Buffalo, kind of jettisoned him back to the bench. But listen, he ran a 4.38 40. He's got speed, right? And that is one of the things that you can tell that Kafka and Daboll care about. They care about speed, able to break any play for a big gain. And
Mhm.
so if he can continue to show that as a change of pace burst back that can get you 4 or 5 yards when you need it, that's exactly what you want. You want a veteran back there. If you look who else is back there in the running back room, you have Gary Brightwell held over from last regime. Antonio Williams, who spent most of the time on the practice squad in Buffalo, may just be a depth piece here. And they go out and get Jayshon Corbin as an undrafted free agent. So when you look at that running back room in totality, you feel like Matt Breida is pretty entrenched in that backup running back role, knowing that behind him there's like 1 year of experience and it's Gary Brightwell playing on the practice squad, basically.
And that's a part of it too, right? Like I have we both like going out and getting Jayshon Corbin, obviously, and I think he can be a contributor, but there's no weight of expectations on him when you're looking at this roster and you're saying it's Saquon Barkley, and then you want to have a guarantee, you want to have proof in the proverbial pudding, has ties obviously to Buffalo, and I'll just put out there as when we talk about what is this guy capable of, and I'm using this just as the template for reliability and consistency when called upon. 2018, and you can say, who cares about 2018? But when he carried the ball 153 times, he gave you 800 plus yards, 3 touchdowns a year when he also went ahead and gave you 27 catches on 31 targets. He's a career 77% catch percentage as a running back coming out of the backfield and fumbled the ball just one time there as well. Had some receiving touchdowns also. He's not going to be asked to carry the ball 153 times, but between whether some at least safeguarding against injury for Saquon Barkley and when you need him maybe to carry 3, 4, 5, 6 carries in a row, right? Maybe take over on a drive and spell Saquon so he's healthy and fresh. You can ask him to do that, and you can do it with consistency. When they signed him in the offseason, I said this was a low-key kind of nice offseason steal for the New York Football Giants inside of this system. Now we're talking about a lot of mouths to feed. But just like we said on the defensive side, when you're asked to do something, do it right, do it consistently. That's what I think Matt Breida is going to do. When asked to do it, He's going to say, yep, that's what I am. Veteran experienced running back at your service.
And when we say veteran, Adam, we're not talking about like a 33-year-old that's over the hill. He's only 27 years old. So,
Right,
like,
right.
that may
No
be
tread on the tire. Yeah.
yeah, it may be a veteran in the running back room at 27 years old, but let's be honest, he still has plenty of tread on that tire. He only had 25 rushing attempts for the Buffalo Bills
Right.
last year, so it's not like he got pounded into the ground for 300 carries. I do like the idea of having a veteran behind someone like Saquon Barkley, who you can see that they're trying to deploy Saquon early in minicamp and OTAs in a different way. Don't be surprised if Matt Brieda gets, to your point, 5, 6, 7 carries a game potentially. It's, spelling Saquon when he's out in the slot or out in motion.
At the end of the day, as we always like to say, the new role for Saquon Barkley, what a lot of people have said should have been so much more of his role from the day that he was drafted, can also dictate where Matt Breida's value is going to be in the short term and maybe some of these other running backs as well. It's exciting to think about having versatility. It's exciting to think about having compliments and experience behind some of these key guys. We'll see how it all shakes out. But this was you know what? This ended up being, I think, mostly positive. Interesting. As we roll through some of these, it's hard to tell which way we're going to kind of fall on it. But all of these narratives are the things we're going to set up and then throughout training camp say, hey, a healthy man, Andrew Thomas? Yes, indeed. Right? Cordale Flott claiming that role? Yes, indeed. So we'll keep our eyes on that. You get the podcast on YouTube, wherever you get your podcast needs fulfilled. And until next time, as Andy Makowitz would want, need, and nay, demand the people know.
As always, let's go Big Blue.